Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you. So, can you go ahead and get us started with a brief introduction?
Sure. So my name is Ashley Phillips. I work at Duke University as a project coordinator. So I manage some research projects here in global health and emergency medicine. And I have been doing this for almost 4.5 years here at Duke. But in addition, if we add up some time that I've spent at some other research jobs in similar roles, I guess it's probably about 6 or 7 years in this field. Yep.
Perfect. So, what type of education or training do you have to have in your field?
So, like I said, I work in global health and emergency medicine, and most people in my kind of a role have a master's degree of public health or global health, something like that. It's possible to get into this field with a bachelor's degree, but you'll definitely have to have some college. And a lot of people that I work with even have PhDs or medical degrees who are like the leaders of our research projects.
Perfect. So let me jump back for a minute. Mm-hmm. So for our kids, what would global health and emergency medicine be?
Great question. So I'm afraid I don't have a nice succinct definition for you, but emergency medicine is the part of medicine. So actually my work is within the School of Medicine here at Duke University. So emergency medicine is all kinds of things. It's a really interesting part of medicine because it's not defined by a part of the body, like maybe an ear doctor would only focus on that, or and it's also not specific to like a disease or anything, like a cancer doctor. So emergency medicine, what really defines it is what we call acuteness, or being an emergency. So things that need attention quickly are under the realm of emergency medicine. Most of the stuff that I work on is trauma or injury related. So when people get hurt, often in motor vehicle crashes or maybe as victims of violence, those would be people that we would see in emergency medicine. And then global health or global public health is a much more broad discipline because then we're talking about populations of people. And we've actually been hearing a lot about global health and public health during the pandemic, of course. It's really come under the spotlight because it's basically all these things that keep you healthy. I like to think of besides really just like medicine. So when we go to the doctor, that's really important and keeps us healthy. But when I think of public health or global health, I think of even bigger things that impact our health, like the safety of our environments in our neighborhoods, like the resources that we have to be active or stay safe. And so that can be in all kinds of things. We talk about vaccinations, that's part of global health or public health, but even things like having streetlights that work or having education to prevent unplanned pregnancy, like those things would all be under global health or public health.
Perfect. So you talk about what other people have in this field. What specific education do you have or training?
Yeah. So I got my bachelor's degree in public health from the University of Georgia, go Dogs. And after that, I spent a little time working in the field in a public health job. I actually did adult education, teaching other people about injury prevention. And that was a great experience, which prepared me also for my Master of Public Health. Like I mentioned, that's a pretty common degree for people that would do the kind of work that I do, managing research projects in the fields of public health or global health. So in addition to the undergraduate bachelor's degree, I went back to school for 2 more years at the University of North Carolina for the what they call the MPH. And that pretty much prepares you straight away to work for this kind of a job.
Perfect. So what led you to this career?
Yeah, well, I sort of didn't plan to be here. I always was interested in health and medicine, things like that, and doing something to help other people. I really like that in public health and in research in general, you can have an impact on people besides just those that you're working with directly. So I've always had that kind of interest, but in terms of actually ending up in the place that I did, it's sort of just, you know, kind of, it's not exactly the right place at the right time, but, you know, about making connections, learning what kind of things are out there, because when I was a kid, I didn't even know that this was something that people really did. So talking to people and learning about the work that they do got me interested in saying, I think I could be good at that. And, you know, networking, which we always hear about, and it doesn't sound all that fun, but it's a really important part of how so many people, like even me, kind of got into the area that I work in.
Perfect. So what does a typical day consist of in your field?
So it can vary a lot. Most of the time I am in my computer and I'm communicating with people who are in different parts of the world or here at Duke to help make sure these projects are working right, like when they're enrolling patients, making sure they're sticking to protocols. So I'm mostly just in touch with people online. But then, you know, some days I might be more having to help with grant writing. So I'm doing that instead of really having meetings and things like that. And then one of the cool things about my job is that I also get to travel. So not every day or most days even, but I get to travel abroad to the sites where we are partnering with folks doing the research to do more of that oversight and training and things like that to make sure that our studies are going as planned.
Perfect. So what kind of studies are you guys doing out here in the global?
Yeah. So we do a lot of stuff within that area of injury. Particularly, we do a lot of research on alcohol-related injuries. So the main project that I work on right now is a project in East Africa where we partner with a medical center and university to enroll patients who show up at the emergency department for injuries, which are most likely related to alcohol based on what we ask them about. And then we try to get them to enroll in an intervention where we encourage them to reduce their alcohol use, or at least the complications or injuries that may be caused by alcohol use. So right now, what the study is doing is it's randomizing patients who need it to that intervention or some other intervention to see what's the best kind of treatment we can do to reduce harmful alcohol use down the line.
Perfect.
So I was going to say, but our group at large does other stuff too.
Yeah.
We do a lot of really cool geographic information systems or GIS research, and in Brazil in particular, we have a lot of partners that do that kind of stuff. We look at maternal and child health. There's all kinds of little projects, but that alcohol intervention is really my primary focus, what I spend a lot of time working on.
Perfect. Now I know I got off script, but sorry. I was very interested. So what do you enjoy most about your career?
I really like the people I work with. And it's not like you go into a field or something because, well, I don't know, maybe some people do because they love the kind of people that do that kind of work. But that's one of the most important things to me, and something that I've learned working is that the people that you work with, just like, you know, your friends in school or any kind of people you surround yourself with, really have a huge influence of your experience with something. So I've had some jobs where the people I work with were not making me happy, and I didn't like the job for that reason. And with the job I have now, I really like the community I have. We have a really cool multidisciplinary group. So people of all different levels of education and different fields coming together, where everybody is sort of treated equally and collaborates in a really cool way. It's not like one of these environments where you do what the boss says and you don't ask questions. And that's something that I really like about what I do. I feel like my opinion's valued, my input is valued, and so is everyone else's. So that's pretty cool.
Perfect. So what are some challenges that you faced in your role?
Yeah, so probably one of the biggest things is like organization and time management, which applies to a lot of different careers. But organization and time management is challenging because the way that our research group works is, again, it's not like the boss is standing over my shoulder telling me what to do. I know what my assignments are, but it's sort of up to me to manage my time and to figure out how and when I'm going to get things finished. So that means that I really have to be motivated and organized to make sure that I'm like meeting my deadlines and things. And of course that can be really hard to learn, like, how do I make sure I get all these different priorities done? And then, particularly for global health, there's some challenges which are, I don't really think of them as challenges, but just some complications that make things a little bit more difficult. We deal with people on all different, wide range of time zones. So even something like scheduling a meeting can be very difficult. And we might have to, really be persuasive if we want somebody to join us for a meeting in California where it's 6 o'clock in the morning, just to make it so that the folks in East Africa can join the meeting at, let's say, 8 o'clock at night, which they're not really wanting to work at 8 o'clock at night, just like the other guy doesn't want to work at 6 in the morning. So the time travel and the time changes and, travel itself can be challenging, but we make the most of it.
Perfect. So how do you see your career and also the university evolving in the next 10 years?
Yeah, so for global health in particular, we are, I say we in a very big way, there is a lot of movement towards capacity building and what they call decolonization. So we're really trying to lift up the partners, especially in low and middle income countries, to be the leaders in these projects that often we are leading for them or with them. So we're trying to gain independence for them to be able to have the kind of personnel and the kind of resources and facilities to run their own projects and do the kind of research that they want to do, which we don't even have to. There's no reason we have to be the ones in charge. We just happen to have a lot of resources for, a number of reasons. So that's one thing that's probably going to be changing. It's already happening. The National Institutes of Health, which funds a lot of public health, most research in this country and abroad, is trying more to support that kind of work that's happening in low and middle income countries so that we can put the focus where it's really needed. And then for me, that's a great question. I wish I knew, but we'll see what happens. Our research lab in particular has been growing, and I'm going to be sort of taking on more of a leadership role within the lab, hopefully in the next few years. So I might not be as focused on a specific project, but I might be able to steer us in a big picture in the direction that we want to go, rather than being, in the weeds and every little detail. I might kind of take a bigger picture look.
Awesome. So what kind of person do you think is most successful in your field?
Yeah, again, probably somebody who's really organized and like internally motivated, right? Because of the way that, at least if you work in a way that our group works, where we sort of work independently and then come together as a group to get things done, because you're not necessarily having that teacher or that boss like standing over you, like I said, telling you everything you need to do step by step by step. So someone who is organized, someone who is motivated to get going, it would definitely be successful in this area. And also somebody who's curious and just wants to continue learning. That's one reason I, was looking at this role in particular myself, is because I knew I would continue to be learning things, and all the time I'm coming across new things and staying fresh instead of kind of just doing the same old every day.
Perfect. So what does communication look like in your field? I know you touched on it a little bit earlier, but what does it look like?
Yeah, so it's pretty unique, and it was more unique when we didn't have this pandemic and everybody was on Zoom every day. So we sort of had a head start because the fact that all of our collaborators are scattered around the world means that we have been doing video conference meetings and doing meetings sometimes from home, you know, for a while, for years.
Mhm.
So we do a lot of that. We do a lot of video calls or phone calls with people from all over the place. We use some tools to just kind of stay up to date that some of you guys might be familiar with, like Microsoft Teams, which is like has all kinds of things in it. You can do video chats there. You can have chats there, or we really like to group different projects. So we can have, okay, this is the team that's working on this grant. And so we can all stay in touch. And that kind of also allows us to work asynchronously, right? Like at different times, like we don't all have to be working on the same thing at the same time, but we can check in on there and go back out. But we use almost every kind of communication channel that's available to us. We WhatsApp because we have people that are international, so we can't always just like be calling or texting people on the phone. So we stay in touch a lot for sure.
Perfect. And you touched on this as well, but what kind of technology do you use in your field?
Yeah, so of course the communication tech that we talked about, it's definitely something that, you know, people don't need to know how to use if they're going to do this kind of thing. Otherwise, we don't, some people that we work with, I don't do as much like data analysis, but a lot of the people that I work with will use like statistical software,
Mhm.
which helps them do analysis and things like that. And so things like R or SPSS or SAS or things like that are some programs that people use. Otherwise, and like I said, the geographic information systems is something that a lot of people that we work with do research on. So they create really cool maps and things like that. But that probably covers it. I think there's always something new too.
There is. Technology is booming. Perfect.
Mhm.
So what kind of classes would you recommend for a middle school or a high school student to take if they're interested in your career or one similar?
Yeah, so of course, I don't know what everybody has available to them, but if you had any of these things that I'm about to mention, it would definitely set you up well in terms of studying public health or working in the field. Like I said, if GIS is an option, that's really cool to be able to study, whether that's in, you know, your courses at school or maybe outside. Foreign language is really important, of course, in global health. That's the job requirement for a lot of global health jobs. If you want to work in a French-speaking part of Africa, you're going to need to be able to speak French. If you want to go to Brazil, you're going to need to speak Portuguese. So that could be something really helpful. Psychology and biology are sort of some of the basis of public health, as well as statistics. Like I said, statistics are a really important part of some of the papers that we write and the research that we do. And then like sometimes people might have project management courses available to them. And for my role in particular, that can be really helpful to have to prepare you and understand what this kind of a role really looks like and how you can be better at it, be organized.
Yes, perfect. So do you have any last words of wisdom or advice for our students here at Richards?
I don't know. You know, I think there's something for everybody, I guess is what I would say. So the best thing you can do is try things out when you have the opportunity. Just talk to people about what they do and what they like about it, what they don't like about it. And you'd be surprised at how that kind of networking can teach you what you like, what you don't like, or maybe even get you a job or a connection that you wouldn't have had otherwise. So just feel it out.
Yes, that's perfect advice. Thank you again so much.